How are used car dealers going out of business when used car prices are going up? That's actually a good question, because I know probably a lot of you think, well, I mean, the value of the things that they're selling are going up, so that should be good for used car dealers, right? No. So what happens as these used car prices go up, the amount of money we have to pay for the used cars also goes up. So we don't just get to pay the same price for all these used cars all the time. The market is moving, it's very volatile. So something that we might have paid $2,000 for a year ago, right now might be $3,000. So when we increase the prices of what we are selling, it is coming from what we're actually having to buy it for. So that same car that we would have paid $2,000 for a year ago, if we're selling it for $3,000, $3,500, if right now we have to pay $3,000 for it, then we're having to increase our price to $4,000, $4,500 to be able to sell it, to make enough money, to have expenses keep rolling, have do payroll, and still make money after that. So now why this is so bad for used car dealers is that's meaning they're exposing themselves to more risk, because everything costs more. The cost of cars are costing more. So if they want to have the same amount of inventory on their lot as they had years prior, they're actually having to spend a lot more money to have these used vehicles on their lot. So we can just use some easy numbers. So if a car dealer wanted to have 100 cars on their lot with an average of, let's say, $5,000 per car, just 3 or 4 years ago, and we know that the value of used vehicles has gone up in some cases by 40, 50%, especially in that lower tier of car. So now they're not having an average of $5,000 if they're keeping the same tier of car per car. They're actually paying $7,500 per car. And at 100 cars, they're going to have either $500,000 on their lot, but now they have $750,000 on their lot. So they're exposing themselves by an increase of 50%. And a lot of these dealers, they don't pay cash for their cars. They're on floor plans. They borrow money to be able to buy their cars to sell them. So the more money that they have in these cars, the more interest they have to pay when they don't sell these cars in a timely fashion. So these dealers now are greatly overexposed. They're capping out their credit limits, and if they're not going to be able to sell through these cars quickly, their interest stacks up. They didn't have this money to begin with to be able to buy these cars. So if they get through a time period where they're not selling a whole lot of cars, their interest payments come due, they can't pay them, they're going to lose their credit lines. And when they lose their credit lines, they might as well not be in business, because they're not going to be able to buy any new inventory for their lot. If you can't buy any inventory, you can't sell any cars. If you can't sell any cars, can't make any money. Why are you doing it? All right, Carlos Melendez, I think I did that right. What about buying for private owners? Should I still wait to buy? So I will say that you can still find deals from individuals. So there's a lot of individuals aren't actually following what the car market is doing like you are, because you're watching my channel. You're probably pretty interested in what used car prices are doing. A lot of individuals are not going to be paying that close of attention to it, so they're not going to know what the values of these cars are doing. So you can still find a deal from an individual. Most prices, especially what I'm hearing from other people who do buy from individuals, they're wanting crazy money for these cars because they're seeing other people get crazy money for cars. And if you do see a deal from an individual, you need to jump on it, because it's not going to last, because there are other people, there are other dealers that are actually combing through the internet trying to find good deals, because you can't get good deals at auctions right now. So if you have somebody that you know that's selling a vehicle, then you can probably get a better deal that way. I would say, I mean, if there's a deal, don't wait. Just go ahead and buy it if you can find a deal. It's going to be harder to find a deal right now, and you are going to get better deals from individuals too later on in the year, because I do believe overall the trend is down and prices are going to come down later on this year. So you'll have more of a selection. You'll get better pricing later on in the year, but there are still deals to be found, especially from individuals right now. So like I said, just if you find a deal, buy it. But overall, you're going to have better luck the longer that you wait. Dwayne asked, Do you ever purchase cars from Craigslist, OfferUp, etc. to resell? I would throw Facebook in there too. So no, we don't buy anything from any individuals typically. And the reason is pretty easy. So I'll go back a little bit in time. So probably 10 years or so ago, I said that, you know what? These auctions are charging a little bit too much. This is back when cars were cheap, so I was really cheap then. And I was trying to figure out ways to even make a little bit more money, maybe find some cars that are a little bit cheaper. So I say, you know what, I'm going to go on Craigslist, Facebook, and actually Facebook Marketplace wasn't even a thing back then, I don't think. But I'm going to go on Craigslist. I'm going to see these cars that I think are probably okay. I'm going to offer them $500 less than what they're asking, clean them up, fix them up, and try to sell them for $500 more than what they were asking. So try to make about $1,000 on them. And I found out really quickly that everyone lies about what they have. I bet we went and looked at probably 10 cars, and I think we bought one truck. And even then, there was a little bit of a title issue there. So we got that figured out, and it was okay. But it was just a nightmare to go through these vehicles and call the people, do our homework, and ask all the questions in the world before I would even go look at this car. And when I got there, it was the complete opposite of what they were saying on the post, even telling me on the phone before I was coming to look at the car, because they just wanted me to come look at the car because that means I might buy it. So they were telling me anything and everything that I wanted to hear that was actually good, but it turned out to be a lie. And another reason that we don't try to even look to buy anything on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, anything like that now is because the time it would take. So auction prices are high. They're crazy right now. But we have all these cars in one small location. We can buy multiples at a time. We have transport already set up. But if we were going to go buy cars from individuals, we would have to go to all different places in the hope to just buy one car. So it's actually it's more of a benefit to us to be able to buy in volume at an auction versus trying to get a little bit better deal from just one person. Because if I'm sending Alex, my mechanic, to go look at 5 cars in one day that he's found on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, then it's going to take him hours to go and look at all 5 of these cars, where we can go to an auction for 2 hours and we might be able to buy 5 or 10 cars there after looking at hundreds. So if he has to go all these different places to look at these 5 cars that may be okay, that maybe someone's telling the truth about, which they're probably not, it's just a big waste of time for us. Even if we do hit a home run on one of these cars we find, the amount of time that it's going to take is going to actually cost us more money than it would for us to go to the auction where all the cars are already there and be able to just buy multiples at one time. Scott Z asked, why do you seemingly hate two-door vehicles? I don't hate two-door vehicles. I'm guessing that he's asking that because you don't see me buy a whole lot of two-door vehicles, or when I'm walking my lot, you don't see a whole lot. I mean, the reason is that there's just not a whole lot of them comparatively to the four-door vehicles that you see come through auction. And that's just a factor of less two-door vehicles are sold than four-door cars, because there's just more four-door vehicles out there. So the percentages that you're going to see of a two-door vehicle versus a four-door vehicle, I don't know what they are, but I would guess it's probably 10% versus 90% of cars are four-door versus 10% two-door. So that's just a factor of what's available at auctions. Another thing might be is that I think a majority of two-door cars are probably more on the sporty line of cars. They're going to be a little bit more expensive. And I really, the clientele that I serve, the customers that I sell vehicles to, they're looking for A to B cars. They're usually, they have families, they have kids, and it's just not really practical for them to have two-door vehicles. It's better for them to have something that they can take their kids in. And I think that's a lot of what my thought process goes into when I'm looking at these cars, because I would much rather buy a four-door Camry than I would a two-door Solar. I know a Solar is basically just a Camry, just with two doors. But I'm going to sell that Camry 10 times before I would sell one Solara on my lot, just because of the kind of customer that I know I'm having to deal with. So that's probably a good way to answer your question. We do buy 2-door cars when we get a good deal on them or whatever, but we just sell 4-door cars way better in the price range that we're in, and for the kind of customers that we're serving. So here's a fun one. Luis Hernandez says, been watching more than a few of your videos and you keep saying contradictions. Are you just speculating the market like Wall Street? So no, I'm actually in the market. I'm actually buying and selling cars every day. I go to these auctions every week. And I feel like what I've been saying is constantly that there's a downtrend in the market. That's the overall big landscape of what the market is doing. But we're having a short temporary spike because of tax time. I feel like I said that a few months ago. I feel like I'm saying the same thing now. We're in the spike right now. If that's what the contradiction you're saying, maybe you could go back a month or a month and a half and see what I said about my predictions of what's going to happen, because it happens every year. Tax time happens every year. We get a spike in the market every year, and that's what we're seeing right now, and that's why you're seeing me say, hey, at auction, the prices are going up, and after tax time is done, the prices are going to continue that downtrend. I feel like I've been very consistent with that, but you're going to see videos pop up here and there where maybe the market's doing something I didn't expect, and if it is, then I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'm not trying to say I have a crystal ball. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. I saw tax time coming. We see it every year, but there are things in the future that I'm making assumptions about what's going to happen. My assumption is that prices are going to continue after tax time to grind lower, and that's what I'm going to stay with until I see something that changes. I know I can be wrong about stuff, and if I'm wrong about stuff, I will come on here and say, hey, I was wrong about this, and now this is happening. I want to be able to give you an honest representation of what I'm seeing at these auctions, because what I'm seeing at these auctions is going to come before you actually see the data come out. I'm going to be able to give you information that's about a month before the data that comes out from Manheim, from any of these automotive sites that actually give updates, because I'm there in real time showing you auction prices. I know that it's limited to just my region, but I think that it's going to be the stuff that I see is going to be mostly of what's happening across the rest of the nation right now. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. So I'm sorry that you feel like it's been some contradictions there, but I'm just absolutely just showing you what I'm seeing in the market, what's happening at the time, and what I think is going to happen with the information that we have right now. All right, Debbie Cohen asks, are you related to Dave Ramsey? No, and I don't think I look like him, but I do say a lot of things that he would, I would assume, approve of. I don't like debt. I don't like to sell my vehicles where I have to put a customer in position to take out a loan, to be in debt to actually buy my cars. That's why I sell predominantly $5,000 and under vehicles. I've even lived a lot of the stuff that Dave Ramsey talks about in my personal life. I don't have any personal debt at all. I don't want to borrow money. I do not like to borrow money. So when I watch stuff on YouTube too, I watch a lot of Dave Ramsey stuff. There's a lot of things that he says that I think are common sense, and that I've even followed a lot with my life. I was lucky enough to mess up very young and get a ton of credit cards, and then be able to really out-earn my stupidity. And finally, it just kind of snapped, and I said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I even remember me and my wife in our first rental house, whenever we would pay off one of my stupid credit cards that I got before we were married, we would have a card burning ceremony. We cut up the card and throw it in the fire. So that was a good memory for us. But yeah, ever since we paid off those credit cards, we have been debt free. We had a mortgage for about 6 years on a house. We recently sold that house last year, so I would assume we're going to get another mortgage again, because we want to buy a house. We're renting right now, waiting out the market. So that's probably the only debt that I ever see me taking out ever again. I don't like debt. I don't want to touch it. I really don't even feel good about getting a mortgage, but it's obviously tough to buy a house and not have to borrow money to actually be able to purchase one. So if I was in a position where I didn't have to do that, then I absolutely wouldn't. But when I do get my house, I'm gonna pay it off as quick as possible, and so I will continue to listen to what Dave Ramsey has to say. I think he does a lot of good things for a lot of people, and I really appreciate the kind of information that he puts out. Again, not related, but I do feel like I say a lot of things that are very Dave Ramsey friendly. So there you go.